All right, welcome back. Welcome back. We are here with the Pursuit of Peace podcast, where we talk about all things work-life balance on your pursuit of peace. And as I said before, season 8, we are hearing from a bunch of amazing women who are also on their pursuit of peace and how they got there. So we have another guest. Isn't that exciting? I know you guys, love hearing from me, but I have to stop talking as much sometimes. So here we are. We have today the amazing Devyn Derksen. And as per usual, y'all know, I really want to hear from them, who they are and what are they doing here as it pertains to their pursuit of peace. Welcome, Devyn.
Hey, Shanae, I'm super excited to be chatting with you today on the podcast. This is fun.
Yes, I'm so excited to have you. We were talking about, you all weren't privy to our discussions about naps, but we'll save that for later. All right, so tell our listeners a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so my name is Devyn. I am currently a nutrition coach and holistic nutritionist for busy people, but I wasn't always a nutritionist. I actually used to be a biologist, which is very different. I used to work for the federal government of Canada, doing science, which is super fun. That's what I went to school for. I have a degree in biology, but now I decided that I did not want to work in a lab anymore. And now I'm a nutritionist and I see clients and I have a podcast as well. And yeah, so that's a little bit about me. I talk a lot about how to make peace with food. So that's kind of the tie in here. And yeah, I'm just super excited to chat with you about all things making peace with food and that good stuff.
All right. And so okay, you all may have heard in one of the recently previous episodes where we were talking about hormones, getting our hormones checked out. And today I really wanted Devyn to get on here because she has absolutely a story as well in regards to how she even got to this place of saying you know what, how to make peace with food. Well, what was the problem, Devyn? What was the problem?
Yeah, that's a great question, actually. And so for me, I always had a little bit of a turbulent relationship with food. For me, it kind of started when I was 15, 16, I would say. And I think that's when a lot of women start to struggle with food, especially those teenage years. It can be really difficult, just body image wise, all of the influences of diet culture, your friends might be dieting, all that good stuff. So what happened to me actually was I picked up a copy of this book. It's called The Eat Clean Diet. You can still find it today, but it's pretty old school. And it just it laid out all these rules of healthy eating, basically, is what it was. And I lived by the book. I was like, yes, this is my life now. And I just kind of got into this spiral of disordered eating patterns and just hyper focusing on the foods that I was eating, counting calories, all of these things that I think we see in the media and we see oh, those are super healthy things. Why wouldn't you want to eat super clean? But for me, it went too far. Right. And so I think we had talked a little bit about this before, but my moment was when I was leaving an appointment and it was an acupuncture appointment. I used to get acupuncture on my back. And I looked at myself in the mirror and I had put on this t-shirt, and the t-shirt was kind of way too big for me at that point because I had lost a lot of weight.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, well, I look like someone one of those poster people for the eating disorders. And I was kind of excited about it. I was like, oh yeah, I'm so skinny. And then immediately I was like, oh, that's not good. That's not a good thing to be thinking.
Right.
So that was kind of that was the moment for me where I really realized that something was wrong.
Okay. Now, I'm a therapist. We're not stopping there. We're not stopping there. You said, oh, wait a minute. Hold on. That actually isn't a good thing. Tell us a little bit about the journey that was in your head that was really oh, shoot, go there for us, because there's a lot of women that resonate with your story. And it's a matter of realizing that it's not just in your head. It really comes to this point where you're like, oh my goodness, I was on this road that I thought I wanted to be on. And yeah, I did go too far. What was that like for you? Like, what did that feel like?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting looking back on it, because I think like I had been stuck in this like almost, I think now we recognize more so like the term orthorexia. I don't know if I would like classify myself. I'm not gonna like diagnose myself with that, but you know, I was definitely in like these tendencies of really like being hyper focused on food. And when it, but I never thought that I had an eating disorder at the time. Like I was like, that's not me. Like I'm not, you know, exhibiting the symptoms of like anorexia or bulimia or things like that. So I think that that's kind of where a lot of women are coming from. They're like, well, I don't have an eating disorder, so like it must be fine. It must not be that bad.
Oh, the joys of denial.
Exactly. So I think like for me, that moment really stands out in my mind as like just kind of the realization that something hadn't been gone wrong or had gone wrong. And from there it was kind of just a journey of the making peace portion of it, and you know, realizing really that I had been actually mistreating myself when I thought I was being healthy.
Wow, I really like that, because people don't consider these what we would call maladaptive behaviors as self-harm. A lot of times we put that in the category with people that are like cutting or, you know, self-inflicting, like physically, like hitting themselves, or, you know, doing things that appear more obviously harmful. But you were like, wait a minute, I am actually doing more harm than good. And I want to know, like, even when you were in that place and you were like, you know what, this isn't where I want to be.
Mhm.
And you came to that moment. I want to know, when you came to, like, came to Jesus moment, it was, what was the inner dialogue like for you when it was like, okay, I got to get to that other side. This is my making peace. What does that making peace look like? What did it look like for you?
Yeah, so I think like as soon as I realized that there was a problem, I it kind of just like snowballed into all of these other things that I realized had been issues that I was just kind of brushing aside. Like I wasn't super active as a teen. I, you know, like dabbled in swimming and running, but I wasn't super active. But when I got into university, and this is kind of when this started to emerge, I really started like lifting weights and running really frequently. And I was just like exhausted all of the time. And it's because I wasn't
Yeah.
eating enough food.
Right.
But yeah, so like wild times, like
Like,
who could
what
have
do you
known?
know? Right.
And again, for me too, I think that a big part of the actual like recovering from this was like getting diagnosed with hypothyroidism, because I have hypothyroidism and I have very low energy naturally. So like I take medication for it. It's great. But at the time I didn't know that. So I was kind of just like stuck in this like super, super low energy state, and trying to heal from like low energy, like not nourishing myself for years,
Right.
and over exercising, and all of the mind stuff that went along with that. It was a really big part of actually finally trying to make some peace, as you say.
Right. And ultimately it is a mental exercise. It's a necessity. Like, could you have even imagined yourself coming out of it without like saying, wait a minute, I need to even reframe how I'm thinking about this situation and how I'm going to get out of it? Do you think that if you would have just stayed where you were, that behavior would have changed?
No, definitely not. Because I was like gripping really tightly to like controlling my food as like a control mechanism, I guess. Like I felt, especially in high school when these things started happening, I was really like grasping onto food as a way to feel in control of my life, because I felt like a lot of other pieces were outside my control. And I
just
think
said
that
a
that
thing.
is, and I think that that is like pretty common for, especially for high school students. Like, you're not super in control of your life. Your parents are still very much like telling you what to do, like teachers, school, all of this. I also didn't have a lot of friends in high school, so it felt like, there was like this online dieting community that I could like feel a part of, and things like that. So yeah, it was a years long like process to get myself out of that. But like I said, that moment where I was like, I shouldn't want to look like someone who has an eating disorder. That was like the moment where I was like, if this goes any further, like maybe I will have an eating disorder.
Right. And I think the like pew, 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 pew moment was, wait a minute, this started somewhere.
Mhm.
This started somewhere. And I think a lot of people miss where the thoughts come that start the snowball effect. It was you being a teenager, you being in this position where there's lack of control, everything seeming haywire, and the ways in which you decided to seek and obtain control was through your eating.
Mhm.
Now, I want to give a little disclaimer, and like I said, the little party alarm to go off to really let people know that this isn't just about those that are in, that university age, like where you're under 21, approaching 21, going on to university, or even if you went as an older adult, it's either way, these patterns start somewhere, and they start with an underlying belief. And I believe for you, Devyn, it was in order to get control, this is
Mhm.
how I need to do it.
Yeah.
How stressful is that?
Yeah, it is stressful. And I think that this can come up at any point. Like you said, like, I think, if you are someone who's older and has like a turbulent job situation, if maybe you've lost a job, maybe you've lost
Yep.
a loved one, something like that, it like dieting and like controlling food comes up in a lot of ways for people in like this way of like, well, at least I can lose weight, or at least I can, eat clean. Because for me, it wasn't necessarily like about the weight, although that was a piece of it at the time. Like it was mostly like, I'm going to be so healthy, and like that's something I can
Right.
control. And so I think that people in whatever way like tend to grip onto their like health behaviors in times of struggle.
Absolutely. It goes back to this baseline of survival. Even though we don't see it that way, that's the way our body responds. That's the way that our mind responds. We have to feel safe. Usually, feeling safe means I have control. And whether it's eating, and oh my goodness, I can think of just how many times I've heard, and this isn't, and I'm going to give my confession in a minute in regards to food. Like a lot of people, it's about stress eating. So I was talking to like one of my clients who her thing was mesquite barbecue chips. I have a bag right now. And I'm like, you know what? I can get down with some barbecue chips. There's even some Ruffles that it's like a flaming hot mesquite barbecue. It was like, but I'm a stressed non-eater. So when I'm stressed, I lose my appetite. And I think that when it's all said and done, a lot of people have been where Devyn is. They've been where you are. Shoot,
Mhm.
they might even be there right now. And
Yeah.
they need to hear that it's become a problem. Like
Yes.
we've heard so many times, too much of anything, even if it's good, becomes a problem. And I even want to highlight the fact that it became initially about being healthy. It starts out well,
Yeah.
but it turned into an obsession. Any and every time you lost control or felt that you weren't in control of something, major events in your life, just like you just said, when it comes down to changes at work, when it comes down to a new position, new duties, if you are a solopreneur, entrepreneur, the adjustment from being in a 9 to 5 and essentially having a lot of things taken care of for you to you have to figure it out. You have to have all these systems in place. It becomes challenging, and you have to be careful about how you are interpreting control, because it doesn't end well. And Devyn, I want to ask you, what are some of the things that you did to really sustain that backing away from that compulsive behavior? Because that's what it was, what did you do? And what is it that like sort of rose from the ashes from it to where you are today?
Yeah, for sure. I think like one of the main things that I've had to do intentionally is like turn inward and like really like listen to my body. And that's a big part of what I help my clients with. I pull a lot of tools from the intuitive eating principles, which is very much like getting to know like when you're hungry and when you're full and like what cravings your body is actually having when you're not restricting yourself, right?
Right.
So like, if you start allowing yourself to eat whatever you want or whatever you're craving, eventually you're going to have cravings for super healthy foods. It's not just going to be about the chips or like whatever it is, right? So that's
Not
definitely
the chips. Don't take my chips.
No, I would never take your chips, but
Right.
like
yeah, you're right though.
So now I don't have the cravings for chips all of the time, whereas before it was like I used to exist in this constant like waiting for the cheat meal. Like, I remember like Tuesdays and Fridays were my cheat meals before. Like for dinner, I was like, okay, I can have one junk food meal on Tuesday and one on Friday, and that's it. And I used to like count down like the hours until the cheat meal. So like if you're doing that, like there's a problem, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I tell people the same thing when it comes down to stress management. Why are you waiting until the Friday? Why are you waiting until the vacation? It's the same thing. Yes. Thank you. Yeah.
And I think another thing, like you just mentioned stress management. I think that a lot of these problems can be helped if you acquire new and different stress management tools that aren't food. So for me, that's looked like yoga. It's looked like, I still lift weights, but in a more positive way. I run a lot. I get out in nature a lot, meditate sometimes. Like you have to have like these tools in your toolbox that you can draw from that isn't just like turning to the chips. And I don't want to like shame anybody for, stress eating. Like I think that that's a normal thing to do. It's an easy, accessible way to deal with your stress, especially if you don't have those stress management tools. But if you want to make peace with food, you have to find other non-food stress management techniques that work for you.
Absolutely. And I think that you really hit the nail on the head with in this moment. If you are identifying with Devyn and what we're talking about, it's not about shame. It's about how do we look for and find opportunities. I even put them in the same box of, y'all know, I'm always talking about your golden nuggets that you glean from listening, that you glean from just everything that's out there now. So many more people are talking about self-care and, healthy eating, healthy habits and things like that. But don't end up staying stagnant and in the mess because you're cowering away because of a feeling of shame and guilt that you don't even need to have. It is natural. All this stuff normally happens, but this is why the information is shared and why I really am so happy Devyn came on and agreed to do this episode, because when it's all said and done, it's okay. Now that you know better, now that we're dispelling these myths or stopping you in your tracks from having even a deeper bond with habits that don't work for you, then what? Devyn, now what? If they are in that position and they were feeling that shame, now what? What do they need to do? What are some steps they can take to slowly but effectively move into that space of peace?
Yeah, for sure. And I think like a lot of it is tied up with diet culture and things like that. Like diet companies want you to be ashamed. So I feel like even recognizing that is a big piece of saying, okay, it's actually not my fault. And how can I add in things to my life to move forward? And that's what I help my clients with a lot is, a lot of them do come to me with like feelings of shame. Like, why can't I do this? Why has like my diet not worked for me? Why do I feel feel so low energy. And so I don't really like to focus too much on stopping bad habits, so to say, but I like to focus on adding in positive habits. And I think a good place to start for people is like, when you look at your nutrition, like, how do you want to feel? And most people want to feel energetic, they want to feel healthy, and they want to feel like they can do things with their body, right? I don't know. Like, that's what I think. That's what I want to do.
Absolutely. One or all of the above. Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, so what do you need to do in your life to achieve those ends? For most people, especially for women, it's eating more food. So many of my
Oh, you
people,
ruffling some feathers. You're
yeah.
ruffling some feathers.
Oh, you think so?
You got to eat more. You got to eat
Yes.
more. I'm just saying, you got to eat more. Some
Because,
people
okay,
take
so
that
this
and
is like,
run.
this is an aside because I feel very strongly about this. A lot of my clients actually come to me and are on what I call the tea and toast diet. And it's not a real diet, but it's actually this phenomenon that happens, especially to older people. As you get older, you can't taste food as well, and you have less of an appetite. So a lot of older people, what do? They eat toast and they drink tea. Okay,
That's
but
true.
you need nutrients to sustain you. So anyway, a lot of people are in this situation where they're eating very light meals. They're like, one of my clients, I felt so bad for her. She came to me and she's like, I feel like I'm overeating. Like, I really need to like rein in my eating. And I have my clients write out not like the calories, but like what they ate. And she had eaten like some cereal and like a cup of soup in that day. And I was like, do you see how this is not leading to energy? Like,
Right. Like, where's everything else that your metabolism could even attach to do something with?
Exactly. And so because women especially are chronically under eating a lot of the time, under fueling themselves, it leads to these big binges in which, like, maybe a couple nights a week, because you haven't really been eating very well, you end up binging a huge amount. And maybe that leads to weight gain. Maybe that leads to shame. Maybe that leads to you feeling guilty. Like, why did this happen? Well, and if you take a step back, it's pretty obvious why it happened. Like, I can see it from a mile away, right? Like, but when you're in it, I think that there is a certain guilt and shame associated with it, that you kind of need to take a step back and think about, how do you want to feel? Do you want to feel energized? And you're going to need foods that give you energy.
Absolutely. And I really love that, because truly, even when I know, like I said, using myself as an example, when I'm stressed and I'm not eating, because I know that is the case for me, I will purposely find healthy foods to eat. Like, even if it's just a little bit to snack on, like, and it's not necessarily, and I will admit, it's not necessarily like a salad or anything. It may be something that's like plant-based, like a full-blown, like, I don't know, a plant-based burger or something, even though that's sort of controversial depending on what, angle you're looking at it in. But like, roasted or sauteed veggies and things like that. And it's like, it's necessary. And in the back of my mind, I may not know as much as but what I know is when I do eat, I can't go to the random things like the chips. Like, I really can't. And I know that, and my body feels it, especially like you had mentioned earlier, for those that have any medical conditions. Like, you have to be really careful and mindful of what you're eating, right?
Mm-hmm. And yeah, like, I think that a big piece of it, like you kind of mentioned, like, that about yourself, it takes that like piece of self-awareness. And I think that is definitely the first step in this journey, because without that, you're not really going to know. And for me, it was the very first step as well, was like looking inward. What does my body want? What makes me thrive? And how do I want to feel?
So if you were to run into someone that is really looking for your services, that is looking to figure out, like, how can I get to that next step? I have tried all these fads, I have done all these things, and it's still not helping. What is it that you do? And I want to even hear, as you go into what you do, how you got there, from your personal story to the expertise that you have now in regards to healthy eating and making peace with your food.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure. So I'll say, first of all, like I am a holistic nutritionist, but I don't know, like I definitely blend a lot of science because I was a biologist before. So I have a unique perspective in that way. I think a lot of people in the holistic sphere are maybe more into like essential oils and things like that.
Yeah,
And that's
yeah,
not really my jam. Although, no shade to anyone who likes that.
absolutely, of course.
So a big part of what I teach my clients is like understanding like the science of nutrition, like how do nutrients affect your body, and like what does that mean for you, and it's tailored to each client, right? So I've had clients before who have maybe an iron deficiency, so I'm like, okay, well, these are iron rich foods, this is how iron works in the body, like make them work in your life. Not, I don't tell people what to do, but like, how could they make that work for them, and like which iron rich foods do they enjoy, like how can they incorporate them, like what's going to make them feel good in a way that works with their lifestyle. So that's a lot of what it is working with my clients to make things very easy for their lives. Because I think, like, for me, and this is actually an example I shared on TikTok yesterday, when I was like super into the eat clean diet, like that diet recommends 5 to 6 small meals a day. And
Ooh.
so I was forcing that on myself. Like I was like, okay, I have to eat the 5 meals, like no big meals for me, no breakfast, lunch, dinner, like it's 5 meals. And like that's not very realistic for most people, right? If you have a job, if you have like any type of commitments, like it's not an easy feat to have like to sit down and eat 5 meals a day.
And you're right, though, especially if you are busy.
Mhm.
I'm a single mom, so unless I am being purposeful, which is actually what you're talking about, being intentional about it, like it's hard, right?
Yeah. And I think that there's a difference between like, you could say like, oh, I want to be purposeful about things, but at what point is it actually just not conducive to your lifestyle, right? Like you're a single mom, like to make, 100% like organic whole foods, like homemade meals every single day of the year, like that might not be super realistic for you, especially if you're super, super busy all of the time. Maybe you stock the freezer with some healthy freezer meals. Maybe you do something like that. You have like drinkable yogurts in the fridge for you or your son to grab when it's convenient, right?
That's absolutely right. Yeah,
Yeah. So
that is what I do too.
I think a lot about like nutrition gets super overcomplicated when really like you should consider your lifestyle and make the nutrition work for your lifestyle instead of saying like, okay, I'm choosing the Mediterranean diet, how do I make it work? Like, no, what is your life? What do you want your life to look like? And how can you fit nutrition in?
And that's a very good place to be, because then it still becomes individualized.
Mhm.
It's not, oh, I'm doing this because it sounds good. I'm actually doing this because it fits what I need, it gives me what I need, and it sustains what my body needs, period.
Yeah, for
That's
sure.
definitely a
100%.
healthier way to look at it.
Exactly. And it's going to be different for everybody. Like, obviously, someone who is like an Olympic athlete is going to have different needs than someone like me who runs 3 days a week. Or, maybe you don't love exercise and like that's okay. But, you just want to like take into consideration your things. And then, anyway, that's like most of what I do with my clients is figuring out, first of all, what they want actually, like, do they want energy? Do they want better sleep? Like, what do they want? And
Right,
then what are
right.
the tools that you can use to do it? And I think you can do this by yourself, but it takes a lot of self-awareness to do it yourself. And it is definitely helpful if someone can guide you, right?
Right, right. And I really like that, because too often people get sort of stuck in this place of, um, let me figure it out myself. And that's fine. That's where the motivation begins, right?
Mhm.
But if you're noticing that habit formation is really just not your thing, and you have a hard time, that's where you need someone that is a coach. That's when you need someone that is a professional that can speak to those things. And tell us about like your business a little bit more. Like, tell us like what services you offer and even like how people can reach out to you.
Yeah, sure. So I mainly offer one-to-one nutrition coaching. I have like kind of the low tier, mid tier, high tier way of working with me.
Yeah.
A one-time session, a 1 month like package, and a 3 month package. And the easiest way to find me is on my Instagram. I'm also on TikTok a lot, although like TikTok is kind of silly. So if you are actually interested in working with me, you can find me on Instagram. I'm at Devyn, Devyn Derksen, Derksen. I love showing up on reels and all of that good stuff and my stories. And yeah, that's like the main way that people can connect with me. I took a little bit of a social media hiatus earlier in the year and it was amazing, but I am always there to answer DMs or questions or whatever that people have. Even if you just want to chat about nutrition, I'm happy. My DMs are open. I'm happy to talk with you about issues that you might be having.
I love that. So we'll be making sure to include Devyn's information in like the comment section, but make sure that you actually go and check it out if you need it. I have been working with so many people that have so many needs. I don't meet them all for sure. First off, second off, you can't get your needs met if you aren't doing something with the information that you receive about how to get the help. So Devyn's here. She said, reach out to her. She spelled her name out. Now it's your job to do the action steps. And I want to pounce on that because so many times it's an issue with motivation to then act on the things that you know that you need. And it might be one of the symptoms of your stress and everything else that's surrounding your unhealthy eating habits. But again, it's not about shame. It's not about making you feel some sort of way, even though the world will tell you otherwise. We are in this season of do you and just do it really well. Like it really is about if you need to rest, rest. If you need to, as I said, with the other part, because within this whole series is all about these stories that can help shake you up to act on it. And if hormones isn't your issue, if a medical issue isn't your issue, but it's unhealthy ideas, unhealthy relationship, unhealthy like just ideas of how to eat better, how to make peace with the food, that be intentional, all of the above, regardless of what it is. And I'm just throwing things out there at this point because you know better than me or Devyn. You know. And as we've highlighted, an additional golden nugget to sort of even overarch what Devyn was saying was you have to be aware. You have to know that things are going on. You have to know that, something isn't right. And the only way that you know that is by getting to this place where you realize that what you see and what you feel isn't it. That's not where you're finding peace. We have that inner critic and all those other things going on in our head for different reason. And this unhealthy relationship with food might be it for you.
Yeah, for sure. And I just want to say too that like if people take anything away from this, I think that like you have to start from a place of caring about yourself and respecting yourself and wanting better from
preaching.
Yeah, from your relationship with food, right? And like I said, for me, it was never a full-blown eating disorder or anything like that, but I had to want it to be better. And I think that a lot of women especially discount themselves because they're like, well, it's not that bad. And it's like, well, is it bad enough that it's like negatively affecting you? Because then it's bad enough. Like, like you said, like take the action, like you have the information at your disposal. It's just like up to you to do something about it.
Right. And again, even if you're on the edge and you're like, oh, I'm absolutely fine. And you're wanting to ignore that little twinge in your head, that little, heaviness in your gut, reach out to Devyn. Do a consultation with Devyn and see like if it's anything to worry about. She'll let you know. Like I said, this whole time she's been telling like she's been there. And that's, I think, the difference between what we talk about here, the people we have on here, it's about the realness of it. It's not about a marketing scheme. It's not about trying to get you into some program. We're talking about people that have gotten to that place of expertise, not just because of their education. She just finished telling you she's a biologist.
Yes.
So we're not on here with someone that's just like, get into my coaching program and make $1 million, and it's like, all in 24 hours, like this isn't
of course.
talking. Exactly. Like this isn't it. We are talking about real life situations that comes from lived experience that just so happen to also have the educational evidence-based practice behind it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
100%.
if you're in your pursuit of peace, there's a little snag there that's related to food. I implore you to reach out to Devyn. I told you, I'm not all things, all knowing. That's for God, not for me. Okay. But Devyn just finished telling you that if the issue is eating, y'all need to talk. So y'all need to reach out to Devyn. Y'all need to make sure that you're not allowing anything to trip you up on your pursuit of peace, and see it as an opportunity to get closer and closer to being rooted and grounded in the eye of whatever storm you're going through. We know that things are stressful. We know that life is crazy right now. I actually, sort of pulled out my bag of masks again because of what they are not saying about, COVID and a different, I don't know what's going on. All I know is I have a pre-existing condition and I don't want to end up in a hospital. That's what I know. Okay. Mm-hmm. So whatever it is for you, do what is best for you. And fight the negative thoughts that's telling you, oh, it's not a problem. Mm-hmm. When your gut is like, sis, that isn't what that whole, bag of burger stuff and juice and greasiness is in your trash is telling me, whatever it is for you. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. That used to be me. I was on it with some fast food, but either way, because being busy, doing something quick, but it didn't work for me. So I so appreciate you for coming on here. And first of all, being vulnerable and open to tell your story and essentially your big why behind your pursuit of peace with food and how it has shaken things up with how you even just deal with life and manage your stressors, and even managing when you feel that you've lost control, not going back to that old way. But I got the message and I'm moving forward, and I am sending that good news out to other women who are also dealing with the same thing. So again, I want to thank you so much, and tell them one more time, how can they reach you?
Yeah, for sure. So thank you so much for having me. It's been a really great conversation. We really talked about a lot of awesome things today. Yes. So hopefully that regardless if people want to find me on Instagram, I hope that people enjoyed the conversation and that maybe you could relate a little bit. But if people do want to find me, I'm on Instagram at Devyn, DEVYN, .Derksen, DERKSEN. I'd love to have you over there, and feel free to DM me anytime. I'm happy to chat about whatever you need.
She said, jump in the DMs and she'll get you right. Okay. So again, I'll see y'all later. Y'all make sure to click the links that are in either the subject line if you're watching this actual video on YouTube, but on any other platforms where you saw this and connected to, you can always get in touch for more information on how you can reach Devyn. If you forgot, if, in this moment you wanted to finish listening and then the spelling left your mind, it is in the links in the bio and in the description. So there is no excuse. There's no excuse. We need you to be the best version of you. And that is ultimately what comes from you being in this place of peace. Okay. So this is Devyn Derksen and Dr. 𝗔𝗙𝗙𝗜𝗥𝗠𝗔𝗬 of SP Consulting Group. And this has been real, y'all, with another episode of the Pursuit of Peace podcast. Make sure that you guys let me know what your thoughts are. Make sure you get in touch with Devyn. And as always, you can click the links in the bios and also get hooked up with our ebook on motivation, because a lot of times, whether you're dealing with your mental health, you're dealing with your ideas and beliefs around healthy eating, sometimes you just need a little boost of motivation to take that next step. Maybe you need to read this ebook in order to get motivated to call Devyn. Either way, it is a matter of clicking the link. It's like ebook.officialspcg.com. Click on the link, ebook.officialspcg.com. Get motivated, get connected to Devyn. And if you are done dealing with the food and you're ready to get rid of some of these mental blocks, give me a call, okay? All right, you guys take care. Love you. See you next time. Bye.